Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is Leading Off, brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and with me today, of course, is the Welsh, and it's you, and we're recapping a glorious weekend of Major League Baseball, and of course, happy Father's Day. Hopefully, everybody had a lovely weekend. I know Welsh was out at the campgrounds, shooting some arrows, playing a little Hawkeye. I hope everybody else out there had a lovely Father's Day and you got to spend some time with your dads. And if you're a dad, that you got some time with the kids or some time to yourself or a little bit of both and enjoyed the weekend. I spent the weekend with my daughter coaching football, and we were able to come away with not one, but two championships in two different leagues, all the belts. I am the Roman Reigns of flag football coaching.
You know, Joe, they always say we always question, what role does a manager or a coach really play in the championship? What would you say? How much of that championship are you putting on yourself here? 2 championships.
Well, I think when you have kids that you're still teaching to play football, I think more than you might realize. And the funny part is, too, when you're working with the kids, and I got so lucky, man. I had a great all-girls team this year, and I had a fantastic team of the co-eds where my daughter plays. She was the only fourth grader. It's third and fourth grade, but we only had one other fourth grader, and he got hurt. And we happen to have just a fast team, and we had to play a different kind of game. We had to play fast. We had to play defense. And guess what? Defense does win championships. So there you go. There you have it. I'm just, like I said, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get kids and you can't get them to play together or pay attention. And other times they listen and they do what they're supposed to do and they get excited and play for each other. And it's a beautiful thing. And it was the best Father's Day gift ever because I was so happy for those teams that they got to do what they got to do. So,
well, congratulations, cool stuff, Belichick.
That's right.
Big deal.
I'm going to announce, next year I'm leaving flag football to go coach at Ohio State. So I'm just, I've been blessed with this time in my life. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, enough flag football. Let's talk about baseball here. And let's talk about Christian Walker's 2 home runs to win on Sunday. Mike Trout hitting his 21st home run against, let me tell you, Mike Trout continues to bounce back. There was a little bit of a lull there. We had the Trout window where that was like your time to buy Trout, and it was probably going to shut very quickly. That's gone now. He's still in this MVP conversation, although I still say it's impossible with Ohtani there. Andrew Heaney did come back and pitch on Sunday, so getting a little boost there in that Dodger rotation. Teoscar Hernandez, who was another big buy low we've been talking about. Bogman and I have been talking about him. He's still a lineup builder in DFS. He had the go-ahead homer for the Yankees. I know over the weekend the Yankees finally solved Alek Manoah for the first time, so that was interesting to see. Ian Anderson combined for a shutout against the Cubs. Gerard Encarnacion delivers a grand slam. Robbie Grossman, yes, that Robbie Grossman did something. 4 ribbies and a homer. Good for you. Nick Pivetta strikes out 10 in a win over the Cardinals. More on Pivetta later in the show. And with his dad watching, Jack Sawinski, 3 homers in one game, including the walk-off. That's a pretty nice moment there, Welsh, don't you think, on Father's Day for Jack Sparrow?
I'm going to throw in another one as well that didn't get put on this list because it's a lowly Diamondbacks. Jake Sawinski, insane with 3 homers, whether it was just 1, the 3 is just such a cool dad moment. But also Buddy Kennedy with the Arizona Diamondbacks, who just came up the other day, hit his first career homer, which was a grand slam with his dad in the crowd. And Buddy Kennedy is just an interesting story because speaking of Mike Trout, he's been famously one of those Jersey kids who trained with Mike Trout and built a relationship with Mike Trout. And that was his big story. Comes up. We got multiple big homers in big situations with dads, which I thought was cool. Buddy Kennedy, cool. Sawinski, insane. Sawinski also, by the way, a little bit more relevant as far as fantasy pickups go. He's a guy to be looking at.
Of course, Mike Mayer's favorite Father's Day moment was Rhys Hoskins denying a fan to baseball, running over, catching a pop-up on the first base side, pretending to give it to the fan, and then turning and throwing it back into the infield. And the crowd booed him, rightfully so. Now, I don't know if, he was getting boos from the crowd or he was getting taunted over there. Who knows what was going on? But it's kind of a jerk move, especially on Father's Day to do. So how do you rank this Rhys Hoskins moment? A complete jerk move and awesome, or just jerk move?
You say
on a
jerk
scale
move
of
and
1
awesome?
to mayor, where does this fall?
Ooh, okay. From unjerk to mayor jerk. Phrasing. This is like a 6, I think. This is like a 6 area. I mean, this is pretty appropriate. Like the one I think about is like the 10, the Ultimate Mayor. You remember that video of that that woman who just snags the ball from the kid and then just like just like is like showing it to everybody in the kid's face, and the kid starts crying and she has no empathy. Like that's Mayer. No empathy. Like if a dad had stolen it from a kid and then everybody just stared at him and maybe cheered the dad, like that would have been a Mayer moment. But this is like a 6 on the horrific
Mayer scale.
Jerk on the Mayer scale. Yeah, exactly.
The jerk store called. They're all out of you. All right, let's get to the injuries because that's really what everybody wants to talk about. So first, I didn't think we'd be starting with this one. I thought we'd be starting with Mookie Betts, but instead we're going to start with Manny Machado, diagnosed with a left ankle sprain. Now, look, this can take a while longer than you realize. I think everybody's just breathing a sigh of relief that it wasn't more than that, because when it happened, it looked like it could be far, far worse. It could have been an Achilles thing, could have been a broken ankle, could have been a lot of things. It wasn't quite the Jason Kendall moment at first base. That forever.
Do you ever get that anxiety? Oh, totally. Do you ever get that anxiety every time I see guys coming in fast and doing that leg stretch at that the base? I get that every time. I'm like, oh god, look good. And then as soon as they pop up, you're just like, what just went out? Something's gone.
He slid right over the top of the bag there. Just hit it, hit
like a trampoline. It was like bam, bam, and then he just flew over.
Well, he hit it and slid. It was the slide, and that was it from there. But look, CJ Abrams might get the call up. That's apparently what's on the docket next. He might be joining the Padres today, so we'll keep an eye on what's going on there.
He was pulled from the lineup yesterday, and it's all but official that he's going to be back.
Now, here's a question for you. The Padres offense has actually been good lately. Cronenworth, although terrible at home this year, has really picked things up of late. Luke Voigt's been on a hot streak. So if you are going to be without Machado for any period of time, it feels like the perfect timing if this has to happen. I know they don't have Tatis either. That's a lot of pressure, but even Profar at the top of that lineup's been good lately. I feel like if they were going to have this happen, this might be the time for it to happen. And also, Luke Voigt's capable of having a run. We've seen this with the Yankees before, where he just gets red hot for 2 weeks, and he's about as good as anybody could get. I mean, he's not, but he can be for a period. So do you think the Padres offense can sustain here without Machado and Tatis now for any period?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't call it the perfect time, because the perfect time would be right as Tatis was back. But pitching has been, exactly. Pitching has been pretty good outside of Musgrove going on the COVID list. Like you said, I think Cronenworth to me is kind of the linchpin of all of that. Like they need him to be working. He's a catalyst. He's one of those fantasy glue pieces I've talked about before. Like our Ty France has been that. Like he needs to be hitting in some capacity to keep going. So yeah, I think so. And also, what I'm intrigued about, especially CJ Abrams, I'll tell you in TGFBI, I've had him on my roster and I put him in to start this week because there's something about this is a really mature hitter who obviously can fly around bases. When he got sent back down, he just started hitting for power again. There is definitely something to be told about these young guys. When you come up to the majors, you don't have success, you go back down, you absolutely dominate. You have a lot of experience you get to work off of and a lot of things you get to change down that I kind of think this could be one of those huge positives where CJ Abrams comes back and he can take all of those experiences and those things he's learned from being sent down and going back down to AAA, and he can find some success early on. So I think he is somebody that you should tentatively be picking up this week if you have not already because of that poor start, because they're going to also have to manufacture. You might have more running. CJ should be running at all opportunities. So I'm pretty optimistic about CJ Abrams in this call-up time, and he might be one of the pieces why this offense keeps going.
And the pitching is going to have to carry them too. I mean, that's what the Padres are built on anyway. Exactly. At the same time, I still think, and I'll stand by this, I've said it weeks now, that they should get another bat. So if you were planning on doing it anyway, now's the time. Go out and do it now. Do it a month earlier. Just be aggressive and go make this move now. And just so eventually when you get Tatis back and eventually when you get Machado back, then you're in even better shape. Mr. Buster,
it's probably a piece of offense.
Too. Is now the time to bet Machado for MVP, or is it over? I don't think it's over, but I wouldn't be betting it now. If you haven't already, I wouldn't be betting it because you don't know how he's going to bounce back or how that's going to be, how much time he's going to miss, what it's going to look like when he does come back. Is the timing as good? Does it take a little while to get better? Is he favoring the ankle a little bit? There's a lot of things. There's also, whenever you have a high ankle sprain or any kind of severe ankle sprain, I know because I've had more than one in my life, there's also the ability to re-injure it quicker. It's a little bit weaker than it was. So you tend to roll it a second time typically. It's not usually as bad, but if you have investments in Machado, you're just leaving him alone and hoping for the best. But I don't think this is the time to invest in him. I don't. I think you missed that time to invest.
I think I'm a little bit more pessimistic than you. Like if I'm on a book and I had bet Manny Machado and that they would let me buy out, I'd buy out. I think. I'm not sure.
I would definitely.
Today is the moment, but I would be buying out on it. And I
Mhm.
think that is kind of gone. That whole MVP. I mean, Sandy Alcantara has been incredible. I just don't think like this could be quite a bit, and this could be significant enough time. It was already a pretty like long shot. I know he had been amazing, but it was a pretty long shot for him to take that home in the NL. I know he was like an
Well, he
odds-on
became
favorite
the
for a
number
bit.
one, right? He
No, I
started in
understand
like
that,
the
but
30 range, and then I think he ended up at 3-1 by the time we got close to it. But look, if anything, watch the number, and if it goes really high, if it goes to 7 over the next couple weeks or something like that, then you maybe do a small share if you want to. But I would just watch it closely.
I'm probably out.
It's tough. I understand why you're out. I don't think that's wrong either.
Yeah.
Speaking of out, Mookie Betts is going to be out. He's on the 10-day IL with a cracked rib. Those are very difficult injuries.
Yes,
Very painful injuries. So that is, you know, look, I sat here in March. I sat here in April. I told you the Dodgers are not invincible. And how often have we seen these super teams, you know, that in sports that don't end up winning? You know, the worst case scenarios can and will happen.
Yeah.
And there was no money to be made on the Dodgers. Now, in terms of fantasy investment, sure, you want to invest in this team. I get it. But they have had a challenge this season, but a lot of challenges between the Kershaw injury, between Walker Buehler being hurt, now the Mookie Betts injury. They're facing more challenges ahead. Despite getting Heaney back, you also, you know, don't know what Gonsolin's second half is going to look like. I mean, there's a lot going on there. Muncy, Bellinger, all the issues that Bellinger's had this year. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like the Padres, even with these injuries, are still in a place where they can still take home this division. But from a fantasy standpoint, Mookie Betts is the guy that, you know, really gets this lineup going. He is a huge part of what's going on.
Yeah.
He is also right at the top of that MVP conversation. Now he's going to take a hit there. And this is amazing because if you had Goldschmidt shares like I did, I know some people here in the show did, I'm sure Mr. Cards did for Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt right now, you have to be loving life because you lost Machado and Betts in the same weekend. And now, if you had Goldschmidt shares, he is by far the favorite right now in my mind.
You got to be. I totally agree. You've got to be feeling great. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying about the Dodgers. I mean, they still got Trey Turner as a table setter. They still got Freddie Freeman in there. I mean, even with all the injuries, like their offense is still kind of a problem. They're piecemealing together the rotation left and right. Andrew Heaney coming back is a real positive. They're like here's the thing that happened with them. They went from like superhuman to they're just on par with being, you know, human. That's all that it is. They weren't one of these teams that was like take the Padres. You take Manny Machado with Tatis off the Padres. We got to be honest here. They don't look great. The Dodgers just took Mookie Betts off and Walker Buehler, and they've still got a really great rotation and they've got a really great lineup. So they're just more human. They're more accessible to be able to be beat, but all these teams should be more aggressive. And it does open up opportunities for some Dodgers out there. You know, if Chris Taylor can start getting hot again, maybe that team is going to give more opportunities in the minors. This is another thing to consider on both sides of the aisle on this is that Super Twos are now over in baseball. So you could theoretically start expecting that teams are not going to be holding anybody back that was close. O'Neill Cruz, prime example. He got the call up.
In a sec,
Vinny Pasquantino could be one of those players, so just be on the lookout for it.
So here's the current over at BetMGM. You have Goldschmidt at plus 175, Machado's already up to plus 500. Alonso went from 12 to 7 over the weekend. He's been red hot too. A big grand slam this weekend too. I've been saying that Alonso really deserves a lot more credit. And I feel like the narrative for Alonso is starting to build a little bit because you have had him be out there without the two big pitchers, and they continue to. I mean, he is very much the team leader. I feel like too, especially from the non-pitchers, from the position players. So I mean, that Alonso one is a fascinating one. He could work himself into this conversation quite a bit. Although it'd be super obnoxious to have Judge and Pete Alonso take home the two MVPs both in the American League and National League, but we shall see. Yeah, super East Coast bias. Speaking of East Coast bias, Max Scherzer is going to make a rehab start Tuesday and hopefully is going to take them out for the Mets on Sunday. So I just put him back in my lineup on all my lineups this week that I had him. And just say, hope for the best on Sunday. Let's go. Eloy Jimenez is close to resuming his rehab. He got it shut down last week because he had some soreness in that hamstring. Now it looks like he is ready to get back on track this week. Fingers crossed. And also Franmil Reyes with the hamstring returning on Tuesday. But let's talk about this. You mentioned Super 2. You mentioned O'Neill Cruz. Cruz started slow in AAA this year. In April, he hit just $176 with one dinger. Since then, Cruz is slashing 265, 367, 500 with 8 homers and a 130 WRC plus. So take us through Mr. Prospect 1, the Aniel Cruz profile, and those of us who have him on roster should expect here in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, O'Neal Cruz is there's swing and miss in the game, but it is absolute pure raw power. I mean, tippy top 7, whatever they want to call it, degraded 70, 75. It's crazy, crazy raw power. He just doesn't have crazy decisive bat to ball skills. He's going to strike out some, he can steal. He's a monster, 6'7". He was a shortstop. This team is obviously long-term not going to groom him in that role. It was interesting over the weekend. There's that situation with, I think, the COVID issue where Liver Peguero came up to play shortstop. The Pirates have been calling up everybody and their mother. They're going to have an entire new team. I think the roster that the Pirates end with could, in theory, only have Key Brian Hayes, at the end, or Brian Reynolds. Those two, those two guys would be the only guys that were opening day to end, and it's going to be the rest. O'Neal Cruz is a guy you should pick up. I personally am not insanely optimistic. He had bonkers projections off of 3 games and some AAA ones that I was very critical of, and I said he'd be one of the bigger busts this year that people were drafting. Here we go. But
it's June 20th, and he hasn't even played a game at the big league level.
It's June 20th. It's 100% right. But he's a power speed guy that you should consider. But looking at the grand scheme, I'd rather have Abrams. I'd rather have Riley Green, who was called up this weekend. Vinny Pasquantino, if he were to get the call up in the next week, would be a really interesting one. I'm not hyper. Yeah, exactly. I'm not hyper aggressive on O'Neal, but he's a power speed guy who's going to strike out a bunch. I think he'll have a poor batting average, but he's going to get home. He hit homers at he had 120. He had the hardest hit ball for the Pirates in the StatCast era. That's the type of guy that he is. So he's volatile, but sexy.
I feel like we're all burned by the the Gregory Polancos, and the Pittsburgh system has been underwhelming in terms of the expectations. Austin Meadows is another guy that I always thought was just hyped over to the moon and not as good as he where we were told he was going to be. A couple good questions here. First, with Aniel Cruz from the Peanuts and Cracker Jacks, does a 6'7" guy stick at shortstop in your opinion, Welsh? I say no. What do you say?
No, I haven't thought he would for 2.5 years when this conversation's been going on. He wants to, though. There's a little
I want to do a lot of things. It doesn't mean it happens. I mean,
there's a little issue where when he sat back down, he was playing in the outfield, and he was kind of interviewed about it, and he was like, I don't want to play in the outfield. He was kind of critical about the Pirates doing that, but he's not going to play. They could throw him there, because Liover is not going to stay up. There's the possibility of that, but he's an outfielder. For me, he is an outfielder for sure. Big arm, but also is that going to affect him? I think there's something to him. I don't want to play in AAA. Maybe he played down. Maybe he's going to play up when he gets to the majors, but is he going to be pissed off if he's not a shortstop? I just don't also see logistically how a 6'7" shortstop is the best use of what they want, but he's an athletic freak.
6'4" or 6'5", I can't remember. A-Rod was a big guy. I want to say he was at least 6'4", maybe.
And they moved him. They moved off of that as soon as they could.
He eventually moved to third base, but that happened way later in the career.
It's not to say that you can't athletically do it. It's just it's
not
weird,
ideal, and it's also wear and tear on a guy of that size too that you don't want.
That's a really, really key point. He's also not a thick guy like Alex Rodriguez. He's a really skinny guy that there might be some injury concerns long term. Yeah.
Although A-Rod was when he was younger too. I mean, but he was 19
not like
when he came up in the big leagues. No, you're right.
Not like
he's not gonna project to fill out the same way as A-Rod did.
Yeah,
and of course, the special vitamins always help. Also, to answer another question here from Legacy 666, would I be getting into Mookie Betts for MVP now, or I was into Mookie Betts for MVP in the first place, so I was never on that, so I'm not going to be on that now anyway. Let's move on to some more news here. And Nick Pivetta, fun facts. Nick Pivetta's last 9 starts, he is 7-1 with a 1.77 ERA, 61 strikeouts, 0.84 WHIP. Since May 9th, he ranks first in wins, second in Ks, fourth in WHIP, fifth in ERA. This is the Nick Pivetta all the fantasy nerds a couple years ago were dying to get in Philadelphia. Didn't get. Philadelphia gave up. Fantasy nerds gave up, and Boston somehow got it right. This is one of the more surprising things in Major League Baseball in 2022. To me, the Nick Pivetta story, this guy is going to be a league winner, I think, this year.
Okay, so that's a question, though. Do you think this sticks? Because you're right. This has that, there's so many of those guys. It's like the underlining stat guy who's in a place that never works out. Joe Musgrove was that, and look how he's worked out. But then there was Matthew Boyd that was destroyed, that never worked. True. Do you think Pivetta is someone that can maintain this? Because this is a pretty lofty, these are.
I don't think
he
can maintain a 1.71 ERA, but I think he can. I think if you are in season-long fantasy leagues, he has already given you significant contribution.
And you don't
So
think
when I
that's
say
why
league
you move
winner,
him
like
now?
he has been a guy that's, I mean, over 10 starts to get something
Yeah.
like this. It's a third of a season, Welsh, for a pitcher.
No,
10
I get what
starts
you're
is a huge clump. If you can get 10 great starts from a guy by June, let alone 10 in a row, I think if you have him in, head-to-head formats of any kind, of course, you think there's going to be some kind of regression, but at the same time, I mean, I think you didn't pay anything for him, so he's more valuable to you than he is on the open trade market.
Okay, so that last part is the key thing I'm curious about is, do you think his trade value is non-existent to the point where, or it just doesn't relate to his production where you are
It
more,
doesn't
it is
relate to the
worthwhile
return on
holding
investment.
than trying to trade him?
I don't think
Okay.
I don't think it relates to the return on investment you made in Pavetta, which was nothing. So
No.
I don't think you're going to get something back that is equally more reliable, I should say. So, but yeah, look, Pavetta's been fantastic, and he's been a guy. I mean, for 2 months now, literally 2 months, we've been talking about Pavetta on this show in DFS, right? And we keep telling you, run him out there, run him out there, run him out there. And if you have, there's no way you haven't made money playing Nick Pavetta at DFS. It's just, you're nuts. Like, I don't know. Show me the lineups where you had Nick Pavetta and you didn't win. You could tweet them at me. I want to see it, but you had to have, because the price never got crazy. You're not paying 10-5 for Nick Pavetta. This day in baseball in 1986, after leading the club to a 26-38 record, Tony La Russa was fired as manager of the White Sox and replaced by Jim Fregosi. La Russa would then be hired by the A's the following month, which is kind of crazy to think that a guy would get fired. Could you imagine like Joe Girardi getting hired right now, or Joe Madden getting hired right now by another team? That's something you don't get in Major League Baseball. But I thought it was funny because I thought maybe on this day in Major League Baseball, Tony La Russa would get fired again by the Chicago White Sox.
And maybe hired by one of those guys. That's what I was going to say.
Maybe hired by the Oakland A's.
Wouldn't that be fun if like Joe, I think White Sox fans wouldn't complain. Do you think a White Sox fan would be happy if they fired La Russa today and put in Joe Girardi? Do you think that'd make them happy? I think just firing La Russa would make everybody happy.
I think firing La Russa would make him happy, but I don't think Girardi's the guy either. I don't think that's.
Dude, I cannot get over La Russa is so much fun to me because he's chaos. He's just like walking chaos. I cannot get over the time I spent over at the White Sox, which wasn't a ton during spring training at Camelback Ranch. I got to tell you, I could not get over the fact that what La Russa would do during all these times is he would just walk around.
Oh,
he'd be in his golf cart.
I thought you were going to say shots.
No, dude. Yeah, wow, I'm surprised. Dude, I'm telling you, he would just like walk around, never coaching, never talking to players. He'd walk over here, he'd stand here, he'd get on a golf cart while, Jim Thome and coaches are working with the players. He was just like hanging out. It was just like, hey, what are you doing here? He was like a reporter just walking around. Oh, gotta go over here, gotta go over there, gotta hit the restroom. Like he never did anything. What would you say you do, La Russa? What do you do? Nothing.
Taking the temperature. He's taking the temperature. I'm not telling you how he's taking it.
It was hot.
But he's taking the temperature.
Like a baby.
That's
a baby.
Like a baby. All right, here you go. Here's your trivia question. All you peanuts and Cracker Jacks. If you haven't already, subscribe to FantasyPros MLB so you can see if you can answer the trivia question correctly. Jack Suwinski, as a rookie, hit 3 home runs in one game. Who was the only other Pirate rookie to ever hit 3 home runs in a game? If you know the answer, drop it in the chat like it's hot. Again, who's the only Pirate rookie to hit 3 home runs in a game?
Jason Bay?
Jason Bay is an excellent guess. It is not Jason Bay. And it's not Brian Giles.
No more guesses.
Remember Brian Giles?
I
miss
Brian
Giles.
I do too. And then remember his brother, Marcus Giles? They had Marcus and Brian Giles.
For the Braves, right? The second baseman, right? Marcus. Wow. Now, that's a name I haven't thought of in a very long time. But no, it is not Bonds. JP, hot out of the gate. JP. Larry said Andy Van Slyke, also good, but it was Kutch. It was Andrew McCutchen is the correct answer there. Well done. You earn my ever-living respect. That's what you earn. All right, let's do a little set heroes from the weekend. Let's fly through some of these. Pavetta, 10 Ks, 4 walks in 7 innings. Robbie Ray, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run. I saw somebody tweet at me, Robbie Ray got dropped in my league. Should I pick him up? I was like, yeah, you should pick him up. What are you, crazy? He's a live pitcher. Chris Bassett, 9 Ks, 3 earned. Shane Bieber, 9 Ks, 2 earned. Charlie Morton with a good start. So you got the good Charlie Morton with the 9 Ks in the 7 innings. What an enigma he is. Taijuan Walker had a huge start, which the Mets desperately needed. 1 earned run, 6 2/3, 9 Ks. Sandy Alcantara, 8 Ks over 8 innings, 2 earned. He is still unbelievable, just filthy.
So
Aaron Nola is right up at the top of the K leaders in the National League and Major League Baseball as a whole. 8 innings, no earned run, 8 Ks. Carlos Rodon, 8 Ks, no earned over 8. Jamison Tyon was good with 8 Ks, and Dylan Bundy, 7 Ks and 8 innings, 1 earned run. And these are all the guys that hit multiple home runs this weekend. Josh Bell had 3. CJ Cron back on track, hit 3. Hunter Renfroe hit 3. That's very important for that Brew Crew. Mike Trout with his 3. Nolan Arenado had 2. Randall Grichuk had 2. Robbie Grossman 2. Francisco Lindor had 2. And Luis Garcia as well. Now, of course, Paul Goldschmidt had 0, who was my pick over the weekend. So I was a little.
I went Buxton weekend. You always go Buxton weekend, but I only got 1. So
hey, it's 1 more than I got. So there you have it. Lucas Giolito was a 0. 8 earned runs. Boo. Mackenzie Gore, 8 earned runs. He's starting to get figured out a little bit, Welsh. 2 out of the last 3. Not been ideal starts for Mackenzie Gore. Just saying.
Might have to dig deep on Mackenzie Gore here a little bit. Like, everyone knows my stance, and then I just had to like tail between my leg, be like, okay, just amazing. None of it made sense, and it's starting to unravel.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, Welsh. You know that. Pablo Lopez, 6 earned runs. Michael Lorenzen, 7 earned runs. Kyle Wright, 5 earned runs, 8 Ks. Any concern with this Kyle Wright start here? Is he starting to get a little tired, a little predictable, perhaps? Just curious.
I am worried a little bit about him getting hit hard. I don't know if I'm completely out. Again, this would be another guy that's worth a little bit of a deep dive. I don't know. I don't think he's coming out of rotation or anything like that. You might want to bench him on really tough matchups, maybe moving forward, to see if this is just a little what is it, block? Like,
I don't know.
Road bump. It's like a road bump, speed bump. Yeah, exactly. Speed bumps, like the waves.
I just like what you were doing with your hand.
They go like this, Joe. Yeah, exactly.
Aruba, Jamaica. Ooh, I want to take you. All right.
To the Kyle Wright. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Randy Rosarena, 1 for 12 with 7 Ks over the weekend. Jake Berger, 1 for 12 with 7 Ks. Brendan Donovan, 1 for 14 with 7 Ks. Not to be outdone. They look, just Ks abound, needless to say. Bryson Stott, 1 for 16 with 4 Ks. Not a good weekend for him. Nelson Cruz, 1 for 14 with 6 Ks. Jonathan India, 1 for 14 with 4 Ks. So it's been no bueno, man. Let's take a look at the home run board from the Peanuts and the Cracker Jacks here and see what's going on. Larry C., we have somebody at the top at 24 with high cubbies at 24. DeBlum,
look at this.
is now at 24 as well. Title chaser 24. It's a 4-way tie. Somehow I'm still on the top of the board at 20 here. I'm still on this board. Go Cards is on this board with 20. All I do is win. Mike Mayer is at 20. So Mike Mayer and I are tied at 20. Night King in the North hasn't hit a home run since Jon Snow took the black. It's been a long time. He has got to shake that off. But he did win, I believe. Oh, no. I'm trying to remember. Mayer, who was it that won the month of May? Because I think we have a winner for that, too, that we want to give out a free shirt to.
Oh,
free
yeah.
shirts.
I remember there was a message.
Free stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Free stuff. Okay, Mayor, do something. Remind me again who that was. In the meantime, let's go to BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Bet $10, win $200. Whenever you place a bet there, no matter what the outcome is on BetMGM, with the promo code leading off, that's what you got to use. Leading off, $10 wins you $200. Go to betmgm.com or download the BetMGM app. And of course, get going on that at the king of sportsbooks. Leading off is the promo code. Today, Darvish strikeouts and FanDuel 6.5. I'm still liking the over, even though the projection's like the under. Same thing with McClanahan's at 7.5 against the Yankees. I know people are like, oh, that's a big number. I'm still over that. I know some people are under. I don't care. JD Martinez, 1.5 total bases versus Detroit. Yes, please, at -110. And Xander Bogaerts +105 on total bases. And that's on DK as well. What do you have here in the prop market today, Welsh?
I got to tell you, just on the Darvish McClanahan, I mean, my stance has always been betting McClanahan over. 7.5 is that number. It's 6.5 and over. You always bet McClanahan without even thinking. 7.5 is rough. I like both of these. I just don't know if I would go out and go nuts about them, but I do like both of those, and those would be on the card. I'm going to go deeper. Caleb Killian, strikeout number is only at 3.5. And it's a pretty good matchup. Pittsburgh, bottom 5 in all of baseball in strikeouts per. A lot of rookies in there. Caleb Killian definitely has an arsenal. He's an all or nothing type of guy. He's had, from the minors to majors, he's had 0 strikeout performances. He's had 6 to 7 in a game. I think this is the prime spot for him to put it on. So Caleb Killian, it's a nice small number. If you want to play BVP matchup, which I know somebody in this gallery is going to be doing here shortly in the home run contest, Ji-Man Choi is the king of BVP today, hitting 400 against Garrett Cole in his career with quite the sample size. No one has more homers against a pitcher today that's playing today than Ji-Man Choi. So why not hit his total bases, which is at a half, one base. He has to get one hit, and it's minus 115. I like that. And then Trout on the hot streak. Trout total bases 1.5. Yes, sir. BVP again, good batting average. So those are the three I'm going to attach myself to. But I also like the Darius McClanahan. If you want to make it an even 5 for my card, I'd be good.
I miss. Do they still make Killian's Irish Red? That was like a huge beer back in the 90s, and I feel like it's disappeared.
No.
You used to see the commercials for it all the time.
I don't remember that.
You were a little older. No, this is the Killian's Irish Red. This is Killian's. Have a Killian's. Yeah. It was a beer in my youth when I was growing up in Dublin. All right, here's your DFS look for tonight. A lot of guys going against each other that you would like. I think the way you make money tonight is in cash on DK. You go with Shane McClanahan, even though it's against the Yankees, because McClanahan's at home. I think you take the other side of the Corbin Burns-Mikolas matchup and go with Mikolas at 7.8 in tournaments as your secondary arm and hope that you get the W, since probably Corbin Burns is the heavy favorite, the heavy investment there. Or if you want to play in cash, you go Yu Darvish at 8.1 as a secondary arm along with McClanahan. On FanDuel, just keep it simple. Go with Max Fried. He's got good win equity. If you want to be fancy again and go Oppo, Miles Mikolas, because it doesn't strike out a lot of guys. But if they get a W there and some other guys don't pitch well, that could be a good one. And Yu Darvish at 10.2, even though despite the Padre offense not having a lot of guys there, I would still think Yu Darvish is good enough to get the W tonight against Arizona.
He's going to strike out. He's going to strike. It's just what he does. I just want to point out that's why that strikeout prop is so interesting. Diamondbacks, one of the worst strikeout teams in baseball.
Right. I don't know why.
He's going to strike out dudes left and right.
He's going to get to 8 or 9. All right. Game stacks of the night. Definitely looking for the Angels, as Welsh mentioned, Toronto, Atlanta, Boston, and Detroit is the one you need to kind of work with. You got to find some relief here a little bit in price because you have a lot of big arm pitchers with big price tags. So you're going to have to look for a team like Detroit. Like we're talking Riley Green at 2.1, Torkelson 2.1, over on FanDuel, Green is 2.8, Javier Baez 2.7, Scope is 2.3, Ramil Tapia on DK also 2.6 if you want to get in that Toronto game a little bit. For me, I'm going with Mike Trout tonight, swinging a hot bat. Let's go. I like the matchup here for Trout. Where are you going for your home run call this evening, Welsh?
Oh, I like that, and I wish I could have picked that. I also like the BV. Well, but I want to double up. I don't want to double up. So I'm going to go with Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to go in the same matchup. Chris Bubich is pitching, and he loves to give up home runs. And Ohtani not exactly destroying lefties or hitting tons and tons of homers off of him, but this is the type of pitcher that would be perfect for. So I'm going to pivot off, try to get a little bit of a lead here. I'll go with Ohtani.
There you go. Oh, look at this one. Wonky Penguin says, Wild Berry, Bartles, and James was the gateway drink for everyone I knew. Wonky Penguin clearly
Boone's Farm, by the way, for my, I just want to put up Boone's Farm was my childhood. So that was my, and Ji-Man Choi for Mayor, as I was pointing out. Mayor is the king of BVP. If there's
BVP.
If there's an obvious BVP guy, you already 100% know it will be his choice every single week that I've been doing this. I see. So, hey, there you go. Ji-Man Choi. It's the Mayor pick.
There you go. And Mr. Buster loves that we are been going over 30 minutes. Monday's always over 30 minutes because there's so much to talk about. We had 2 massive injuries, so we absolutely needed to get and talk about that. Boone's Farm was for rich kids, Wonky Penguin says.
For rich kids? It's like $3. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Hey, I'm going to let you two sort that out. On that note, we'll be back again tomorrow, do it all again. Bogman will be here, break all the games down with me. Again, happy Father's Day, everybody. And that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next